side, but I think this adds more to the strategy of it, right? Where you could play, you could go all defensive and play Sage, Cypher, and Killjoy, maybe in a Viper in there, but then your attack side is going to be severely leaked. So I do think it's a given pool where, yes, in theory, a Cypher and Killjoy combo, along with maybe a few more controllers, is like possibly to like break through when it comes to like a split map where it's already defensive sided. But then you have to think about the offensive capabilities where you do have to get some rounds on attack. So I do think she adds a bit more strategic depth to being where you want to take your composition, either defensive or offensive, or more well-rounded all between.
Well, now I hate Raze. How dare she thief some plans? What is this?
I didn't even know we had Valorant lore. I did notice she had like a Kingdom laptop.
Did you? I was gonna ask Tyler. Did you make this up? Tyler? Like, did you just make up lore?
No, it was in like the it was in like the German reveal of Killjoy because she's German. Yeah. I believe Riot talked to a German gaming site to give her the details of the new character from their country, and they brought up Ray stole the blueprints of Alarm Bot and made a better robot. Like the Boom Bot's way better than Alarm Bot. Like the Boom Bot, as a Raze main myself, like the Boom Bot is impossibly godly. It's way better than the Alarm Bot. Who cares about the debuff? The Boom Bot just kills people.
So this is gonna really strain Germany-Brazil relations, is what we're saying here.
If it already,
very
tough.
Already.
If it wasn't already.
We're starting geopolitical conflicts here. Great.
Anyway, so that's Killjoy. So August 4th is the release date. That means that obviously Killjoy will not be part of the mandatory cup, but quite possibly part of FaZe Clan's Invitational. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about the rest of the act. Let's talk about new skins. Let's talk about Killjoy counters. Let's just overall, what are we expecting and what are we hoping for from this new act? Emily, let's start with you on this one.
I mean, I want there to be a new map. I think like maps are, and maybe this is just coming from like my primary FPS being COD. I think maps make or break an FPS for me. And I actually really like Ascent. I know people disagree with that assessment. I think Ascent is my favorite map thus far in Valorant when compared to the others. Outside of like changes they made to Split, I actually like Split a lot more now. But I want to see another map. I want to see them continue to improve in interesting map design. And obviously the simultaneous release of Killjoy, if they were to have it in this act, would be, I think because of her turrets, that takes getting used to in terms of, triangulating stuff. But I don't know. For me, it's like it's overwhelmingly an FPS lives or dies by its maps. And I want to see Riot continue to improve in their map design because I feel like we've already seen that from beta to launch. So that would be like my big request, I guess. I know they announced like a few changes to ranked that I'm sure Tyler's going to talk about, but I just really want a new map or two, and I want to see how they've evolved in terms of map design.
Well, we're not getting a new map because the next new map's probably not coming until December when they said. Well, yeah, they've said. I know everyone's like
Tyler Daggers.
No, because they said this. They said this that there will be a new map or a new setting every episode. The episode doesn't end until December, so December will probably be when we get our newest map and agent and episode. So most likely December, unless they listen to the community or like, oh, maybe we'll release a new map early. But I wouldn't expect something new.
The community is behind me. That's all I heard from them.
Yeah. Chat hates Tyler right now. Chat hates Tyler right now. You burst their bubble. You ruined their lives right now.
I'm very, like you saw my face just fall. I'll be like, what?
Well, no. Yeah. The fifth map is expected in the summer, maybe earlier, but we will have.
Too late.
We're getting a new. We got Killjoy in August. Act 3 will begin in October, which will be our number 13 agent, and then in December will be the end of episode 1. Episode 2 will start in December, and we will get a new agent, number 14, and a new map. Hopefully, most likely. So I'm not even thinking about maps. I would love a map, obviously, and I think that's the number one thing for almost everyone, including pros, people who play for fun. Like, new maps make for more interesting strategies, more interesting games, a better esports scene. But we're not going to get one, so I'm not even going to look into that. What I want from this act.
By the way, wait.
To maps greater than agents, because I think that is actually huge for game design.
Well, yeah.
So much more important.
I just want to add that a poll was put into our Twitch chat by our esteemed producer Thomas. What should Riot add next? 92% of people said more maps over more agents.
Of course. I mean, let's not act like we're like creating something new here. Like if you go in the Valorant every other day, it's like. I'm talking like, is anyone here, guys? Does anyone think that we need more maps and more agents? Like, obviously, yes. Everyone in the world thinks there should be more maps and agents, but agents sell money. People pay to play these agents. People play for these new characters. You don't pay for new maps. A new map will be coming December. I'm sorry I'm being such a killjoy here, but it's going to take a few months.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Wow.
And I know people are saying we need community maps. Riot's already shut that down as well. I know you guys want Christmas to be in July, but it's not coming. They're not getting a new map. There's no community maps on the way. They've already shut it down. We live in a Riot Games utopia where we're going to make all the maps.
So Tyler, the Valorant Grinch, tell us what you would put into this next act.
I want a better rank system, and I know they're giving us our triangles, and oh my god, we're gonna get colorful triangles for your act. Ooh boy, we need a leaderboard system. I don't care if I don't need a leaderboard system in silver, gold, where all the plebs are like us, but we need a leaderboard system up in the upper echelon. We need it where Radiant players are, because here's the thing that we've already seen very early on in Valorant is you only need to play 20 games to get ranked in Valorant. Unlike in League of Legends, where if you want to get a ranked account to play, it's going to take you 30, 40 hours. You can get, 20 ranked games in a day if you grind really hard. And what's happened is that we have people like Wardell, one of the biggest streamers right now in Valorant. He's growing from 100 viewers to 10,000 plus every stream, killing out there. But what Wardell's doing is, when he hits Radiant, there's no reason to play more if you hit Radiant, because your queue time is now going to be forever, because you're only going to get matched up with really highly ranked players, and in any given time, there's only so many matches to go around. And B, there's no ranking system to show is he better than A, B, C, or D. If there was, he'd continue playing on that account to be number one in NA, because then you have that distinction, right? Because of this, what does Wardell do? Wardell just keeps on making Smurfs, which means he just makes Smurf 1. Smurf 1 goes to Radiant. Smurf 2 goes to Radiant. Smurf 3. He's made 5 Radiant accounts. He has hit Radiant in 5 different accounts. And who can blame him? That's the only interesting content you can make when you hit Radiant, because you either have to bite the bullet and just be like, okay, I'm just going to try to get the best games possible by waiting 40 minutes for a Radiant game, or you just make a Smurf like Hiko, Wardell, and almost everyone else does, because they want to play games, and there's no incentive to get higher in Radiant, because you don't know. Obviously, BlitzGG, there's an open API. I'm sure there will be OPGGs and other sites that will actually start ranking players, but we need an official leaderboard in the game for these players to actually have an incentive, because the pro players, as much as we want to, you say, we have to care more about the plebs. There's more silver and gold players and there's Radiant players. But people watch the Radiant players. People want to tune into Hiko and Wardell and want them to have stakes. How much fun would it be if it was, we have, August 4th. Act 2 is about to start, the end of Act 1. How much fun would it be if Wardell and Hiko on August 3rd were racing for the number 1 spot in NA? And just those two. It'd be so much fun to watch these top players race for the number 1 spot, to be on the number 1 player in NA for Act 1. But there's not. And that sucks. And what we have is Wardell and his Smurf army just taking all the Radiant spots. And that's not something I'm sure that Riot really likes.
And by the way, okay, I want to give my thoughts on what I would add here. But the first thing is, it sounds impressive that Wardell has 5 Radiant accounts, but he really should if he's doing that. Because he's beating gold and diamond immortal players that he would be beating anyway. So it's not like it's like super impressive. He's
It
just
is
doing
impressive.
this same thing 5 times though.
It is
Because
impressive,
he doesn't
though.
have the lead.
It's still pretty
It's
impressive.
impressive
It's
in that he
impressive.
did it. It's not impressive in the
there's
sense that he
not as
should do it.
many-
He's Wardell. He's one of the best players in the world.
There's not as many people as there are in League of Legends, but it's still pretty impressive.
Yeah, but
It's
he's
so
Wardell.
impressive.
That's what I'm saying. He's Wardell. He's like one of the top 5 best players in the entire world. Of course, he can make 20 Smurf accounts and he should have 20 Radiant accounts because he's Wardell. Right? Like if he grinds the game enough, which he does on stream, of course he's going to get that many accounts because the leaderboard doesn't exist. I agree with you. To add to the point though, what I would like to see, and I'm going to answer this from the fan perspective, which may not like this as much, and the player perspective that would absolutely love it. I think there should be something to do in the game while you're waiting in queue. So whether you're
Yes.
able to go in the range, whether you're able to go to Spike Rush, a knife fight, death match, doesn't matter. Something to do while you are waiting in queue. That is great for the player because then you can entertain yourself while you're waiting upwards of several minutes trying to find a game. For the player or for the viewer, though, I will say that Wardell and other streamers are their most engaging while they are waiting for games. So I hope that part of it doesn't lose because Wardell has answered some really good questions while on stream, while he's waiting for a game. So that's valuable information, say, to someone like us, because we like hearing Wardell's insights on certain things. Like, I'll give you an example. Tens and Sinatra were on stream right after the last tournament that Sentinels won, right? Or the PAX Arena, I should say. And both of them were like talking about it and answering questions about it. Hey, why did you pick Viper in the last map, etc.? What about the 1v3 sick, etc.? And like Sinatra and Tens were like breaking it down, but they were doing it while they were waiting for games. And we may not have gotten that at least as easily had that not happened. So I do agree, though, ultimately, we should have some sort of entertainment while we're waiting in queue. Not for us, because it takes 30 seconds to find the game, because we're all in silver and bronze and iron, but...
I mean, who would be an Iron Arda? I mean, that's not the real Iron. I mean,
Wait,
the Iron
what?
Boy.
Iron? What are you talking about?
No one's Iron here.
No, absolutely not.
I'm not
Oh
Iron
my
here,
God.
just saying.
Excuse you, please. Like Moses said, there's no Iron 2s in the chat here. Please, come on. Let's get to our clip of the week, Fionn. What did you pick for us?
Ooh, clip of the week. And I think it's more, there's more than just one clip, but for this clip, it has to be Tens at the PAX Arena Invitational in the finals for Sentinels, where there's an argument. We're talking about best players in the world. Is Wardell top 5 in the world? Is Tens top 5 in the world? You can argue who the best in the world is, especially with, no international competition, Mixwell artists. You have Laz over in Japan. Like, there's some insane aimbots everywhere in the world. But there's no more valuable player to a team in any Valorant team than Tens. If you take Tens out of Cloud9, they go from a finals contender to probably not even making playoffs most of the time. He is by far the most valuable player in Valorant, and this clip just kind of showcases that. Where he plays a sheriff. The team has no economy. This is a forced buy. If they lose this round, the game is essentially over. They get picked off instantly to 3v5, and what does Tens do? He just goes God mode. He goes insane with the ultimate, where he does this a lot, and he did this a lot in the final versus Sentinels, where when his economy was down, he let the other players on his team buy rifles, he would buy a sheriff, he would pop his ult, and he would go to work. And in this one play, he turns a 95% or even greater loss into a one round just because of his own talent. No one else on this team really helps him. It's just him going in, making plays, and he did this over and over and over again on that Ascent map in particular, where if Tens doesn't make a few of those plays, it's a 13-3 blowout by Sentinels. It was just Tens' play on Jet on Ascent in particular is just, it's beautiful. He understands the character more than any other person, I believe, right now in Valorant. And just from not only this play, but if you watch some of his executes on A, where he is floating through the smoke, where he will aggressively smoke and run through the smoke up into balcony, into heaven, and just push hard. And people aren't ready for that kind of aggression a lot of times. So for me, Tens is, I call him the magician, because he pulls magic out of hats every single time he plays for Cloud9. And there's might be better players in the world. You can argue Wardell, you can argue Artist, you can argue Laz, but for me, there's no more valuable player on a team than Tens.
Definitely the disparity between Tens and the rest of the. I'm not knocking the rest of Cloud9, at least the announced players, but Tens is in a level of his own. Like that, it's almost as if it's like LeBron, like you said, LaTenz James in the Cleveland Cavaliers in the late 2000s. Like
he wills his team.
He wills his team. Exactly.
Then that clip shows it where two players instantly down, 3v5. If Arda was in the game, he'd be FFing right now. He'd be like, I'm done.
Yep,
but no, Ten says it's time to go. The Go-Find floats in, wins the round by himself. I would rage quit at this point if we lost two that fast. Literally, and here's the thing, and I think we can talk about this a bit more, is that for other teams, like for Wardell exactly, I call TSM the Louis Vuitton team. They're the Gucci team, where they need those high-end products to get the job done. Where Tens, all he needs sometimes is a Ghost, a pistol, a Judge, a Bucky. He gets it done. He gets the job done with any sort of gun in the game, and that's what makes him so great for me.
Speaking of guns, let's go to a segment we like to call "Who's Got the Shot." Speaking of Tens, we'll end up in some conversation here. So we picked 3 categories of weapons in the game, and we are going to name the players that come to mind based off of those weapons. Feel free to join in on chat. What is the first name you think of when you think of the weapon that I'm about to name? Emily, let's start with you on this one. When I say operator, first player that comes to mind is?
I was going to say artist, but I thought I had the Judge. But anyway, artist is the first player that comes to mind when I think operator. I think the fact that Fish123, like we've talked about this several times, when Fish123 lost him as their primary op, it actually really hurt their team, and they kind of had to reconfigure. Despite the addition of Scream, they really had to try to figure out how they wanted to play without their primary operator. I actually think that Artis is the best player in the game right now. I don't know if that's a controversial opinion or not, but he is just absolutely lights out with the op, and Artis immediately just comes to mind for me.
Tyler, how about for you?
I mean, I already talked about him so much. I might be his hype man here. It is Tens. I mean,
are you his manager? Are you his agent?
I mean, I should be. He's going to be making a lot of money in this game. He's going to be making a lot of money in his career in Valorant as this game continues to get bigger and bigger. But for me, it's Tens. And obviously, I think he was that primary operator player for the first month or two on C9. And you can still consider him the primary operator. Him and Mitch kind of trade off on the role now. But for me, when it comes to just slickness of the operator and how many times I just shake my head at what he's doing, there's no player that uses the operator and has as many nasty clips as Tens. Artis might be a bit cleaner. He might be that primary operator player along with Mixwell, very similar of how they trade off in that role. But for me, there's no player that screams operator masterclass other than Tens. There's another player that I'm sure you're going to bring up, Arda, right now. Yes. The Canadian rivalry between the two best operator players in North America. But for me, Tens has made me shake my head in disbelief more often than not. So I'm going to go with Tens for the operator player.
Yeah, in terms of highlights for me, you got to go with, and chat definitely spammed this name as well. Actually, it was a mix between Tens and Wardell. So I'll go with Mercedes AMG. So
no one likes my artist
AMG.
Pick. I take offense.
No, artist is the hipster pick. I think that is the rarefied, the refined taste pick. Okay, artist is the refined taste pick. I've sampled all the bottles of wine, and this is the right one. But for Wardell, for the Mercedes AMG, what I like about him is I think he I don't know if this is a stat, but in terms of the jiggle peak and in terms of being able to protect yourself with the op, he might be the best at it in the game. There's certain times where I'm just this is certain death for Wardell, and then he just gets himself out of the situation with the op. He is such a clean operator player, and also just to be able to peak at the right times. I don't know if he has X-ray on. I don't know if he just knows when to do it properly. Wardell is just an absolute beast when it comes to peaking and the jiggle peak. It's absolutely phenomenal. And by the way, for those curious, he has so far in his career, and this is thanks to our friends at VLR.GG, he has played 728 professional rounds on Jet, Tyler, and his KD is 1.57. Unbelievable. He's just he just collects stats.
Yeah, he doesn't die. And I do think when we talk about the PAX Arena Invitational, his jiggle peeking, his aggressive play on the operator was one of the reasons why TSM did falter so harshly and almost kind of should have lost to Envy in the quarterfinals. But I do say he is very much a glass cannon player where when Wardell's on, when Wardell's feeling himself, when he's pumped himself up, when he's yelling, when he's saying the expletive after expletive after expletive, yeah, when he's at his peak Wardell form, this Tyler One persona that he's kind of taken over and become this expletive god of the off, he's unstoppable. He's the best player in the game. But there's also times where that aggression and that confidence can get the best of him, which happened at PAX Arena, where Envy and most importantly Sentinels both took him out in his aggressive play. So I think Wardell is one of the best characters. I'm going to go with Tens. I think Tens, Wardell, and Artis are all good choices. There's also Mixwell. Mame from Envy should get a shout out. I think he's one of the fastest rising operator players in NA. And Mame actually got a lot, like, we talk about Wardell getting the best of players with those, aggressive operator plays. Mame, him and Wardell were going back and forth with their overly aggressive plays on Haven with the operator play. So I want to give a shout out to Mame. He's one of the fastest rising operator players in NA. So
yeah, Wardell had a bad tournament. I know we're talking about this in PAX Arena, but let's move on in the segment here. If I say, let me get to my point here. Actually, the first question I want to ask to chat is, which preference do you have for AR? Phantom or Vandal? I want to know which one. I want to know which one chat uses.
Phantom all day long.
We're all
Phantom
Team
all
Phantom here. Is anybody Team Vandal in the chat? That's what I want to know.
Phantom's there for the spray, for the if you feel confident on your headshot, if you're Hiko, you play with the Vandal. If you're like me, who hits like headshots 12% of the time, I'm gonna play with the Phantom. I'm gonna get that spray down. So
if I say Phantom, I mean let's add both of them in this category. But if I say Phantom and or Vandal, Tyler, the first person to come to mind is
Corey. He is. In my question, I think that obviously because he didn't play in the PAX Arena Invitational, some people have forgotten about my boy out there on FaZe. FaZe is growing. They got Marvin and Zachary. The team's coming together. FaZe Invitational is a week away. We're going to see the debut, hopefully the full 5-man FaZe roster. And I think in terms of just pure mechanics on the rifle and pure mechanics in general, Corey, I think he might be the best in the world. It's just pure mechanics when it comes to aim. He is I've talked to so many pro players who say you have less than a second to kill him or you're dead. And if you've seen some of his clips where it feels like he is walking on air with his hand, where you don't understand some of the flicks he gets. He's the flick god of this game. And I do think because of he's only played in one professional tournament, that being back in the first edition series, the T1X Nerd Street Gamer Showdown, where they finished fourth with a trial team. I believe that in a few weeks from now, when we're talking about best players in the world, we are going to be talking about Corey because the man is on a mission. He is the flick god. And if I am putting anyone on a rifle, it's going to be him.
Yeah, the only reason I didn't pick Corey was because Tyler picked Corey. I think we all agree that Corey is pretty much a god at this game. We can't wait to see him next week. Emily, who's the first name that comes to mind for you?
I don't know if it's the first name that comes to mind, but I wanted to use this opportunity to give Food a shout out because I think he's like very quietly one of the more insane players. Like he's really smart about how he plays. And I feel like despite the fact that I know T1, like started off when we were talking about PAX Arena last week as it was going on. We were like, T1's looking like one of the best teams. And then obviously they did not perform as well once they got out of groups. But I think Food is really, really good at this game. I think he's going to evolve to be like one of the smarter players in it. Like one of those, like, again, you said Artis is a hipster pick. I feel like Food is my actual hipster pick,
Definitely.
Because people aren't going to be like, wow, like Food, he's lighting the world on fire, et cetera, et cetera. But he's become quietly one of my favorite players to watch, actually. And I think he does so much for this T1 team. And I think he's really, I like his approach to the game. I think he's really smart about it. So I want to give Food a shout out, despite the fact that I do think there are going to be better riflers than him in the game. I wanted to have this opportunity to talk about Food a bit.
Yeah, it's cool. It's nice to prop up to people that may not normally get their love. I know that a lot of people were saying Brax in the chat, for example.
This is the actual hipster pick. And Brax, obviously. Like, but yeah, this is like the actual weird hipster pick. Like, Emily, what the expletive are you talking about?
Mine is Hiko. I would have picked Corey, obviously, like I said, but Hiko is my next pick. And I think this is based on legacy a little bit because 100 Thieves haven't had the best results recently. But you still can't deny Hiko's body of work. And also, he still remains to me somebody that I would pick if I'm in a clutch situation. If you said to me every single round in Valorant, you can win $1 million, but you start in a 1v4 every round, but you get to pick that one, I would pick Hiko would be my first choice because I just think he has the clutch gene. I think that he's very calm in most of in those situations, and his aim is godly as well. So I think Hiko can be an obvious pick here. I think that recency bias would say that people might have sort of slid under the radar with him and not given him his due just because there's so many other players to talk about. But we got to give credit where credit is due. So
yeah, totally agree. He's if there's a 1v3 and there's a championship on the line, he's one of the top players I would want with the gun in his hand. And the man can hit. He has all the mechanics still at 30 years old, showing that, you don't lose your aim at 30. He's proven it out there for all the 30-year-olds out there. He is the clutch. He is the man, knows how to get it done.
I should, yes, actually, also, he's also part of the Boomer Club with a 3 in front of his age. So shout out to that. Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's go. Yeah, Phantom over Vandal. Thank you, Thomas. Basically, chat was all Team Phantom. There were maybe a couple of Vandals in there, but really, this is the Phantom Club.
Yeah, Phantom gang.
The Phantom fam. Yeah. Sure. All right, specialist guns. What are some guns? Here's a question for you. What are some? This is the question I'd like to. And chat, feel free to join in here too. What are some guns that you would not have thought you would see played to perfection in competitive play? Because we've talked about the AWP, we've talked about the ARs. Those are ones that are like typical picks that you would expect to see. What are some guns that you perhaps didn't think you would ever see in professional play, but you have seen some players absolutely destroy it with them? Emily, let's start with you on this.
So I mentioned this previously, but this is probably one of my most hated guns to play against because it feels so bad. Like you're like about to peek around the corner and someone just judges you in the face and it's terrible and it just feels worse than any other death ever. But yeah, 10s with the judge is it for me. I did not expect to see the judge being used much whatsoever. And, like, I feel like people don't necessarily deny the power of it, but 99% of the time there's going to be a better choice. And, Tense has made the judge his own, despite the fact that it is like honestly the most tilting experience for me personally to get like judged when I'm playing. And it works as an adjective as well, or it works as a verb as well as a gun. So it's a fun time. But yeah, tens of the judge is my pick.
Tyler, I got one for you. You know how Simo likes to say Judge Jetty, right?
Yeah.
And I know how you like your I know how you like your music references. If you watch the trivia show, you know all about getting knocked down and getting back up again.
Yeah.
Here's one for you. I don't think you're ready for Judge Jetty. The weapon's too fragalicious for you, babe.
I don't understand this reference.
It's a Fergie reference.
I am such a boomer. Oh my!
I'm in my 20s still.
It's a Fergie reference, right?
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, Black Eyed Peas. Black Eyed Peas. Is that Black Eyed Peas?
Is it?
You have got to be kidding me.
I got it.
It's Destiny's Child.
Oh
my gosh, Bootylicious? No,
I was like 12.
I thought it was like, yeah.
Can you handle this? No, oh my, come on,
no.
People, chat, can you at least help me out?
No.
Tyler's leaving me hanging.
No.
Don't help him out.
Nope.
My pick is the Sinatra Odin. Okay,
Of course.
that's an easy pick. I am an Odin aficionado myself. Tyler will tell you we play Valorant every night.
Yeah.
And I request the Odin after round 5, and he never buys it for me.
Never.
He
Not
shouldn't.
once. No.
So
Tyler, you're doing God's work here.
now,
Don't
Tyler,
forget- Don't forget, you always buy in areas after losing pistol round 2. Where you,
yes, I do. Force buy.
It's like they'll never expect the Aries round 2 after losing
Oh
pistol.
my God. Arda.
Sinatra definitely doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Tyler, you have said, rightfully so, Sentinels is the most exciting team in Valorant right now. And in part, that is due to some unorthodox picks and plays. And Sinatra definitely falls within that. With the Odin, and I absolutely love it. I know that it slows you down. I know that it's hard to handle the spray at times, but for me, I just love the way that Sinatra plays with the Odin. It's very fun. It's very exciting. So yeah, Odin gang for life. Let's go.
Odin goes burr. Odin
goes
burr. Odin goes burr. And I think it does sum up Sentinels very well. And actually, my specialist pick also is Sentinels, and obviously, it also is Sinatra. While he doesn't use this as majority of his pistol gun, I do love him playing the Frenzy on Phoenix, especially where I'm a Frenzy guy too. I know people like the Ghosts, they like the classics, save a bit of money in the pistol rounds. I have the Frenzy. I like to play aggressive. I like to run in. I don't necessarily trust my shot from long range a lot of times, so I don't like picking the Ghost. I always feel like I'm shooting pellets at the other player when I'm on the Ghost, the sound. Frenzy though, all in on the Frenzy. And Sinatra is one of the few players in Pro to actually pick it up during those pistol rounds, getting those reel-off kills. If you can get someone's face with a Frenzy, you're almost guaranteed to kill if you can just pop up on them. It's annoying to play against, very similar to the Judge and the Odin. And it's just another little thing about Sentinels that makes them a bit different than every other team. They throw a little bit of curveballs at you. They throw curveballs at you all the time to kind of make you not feel comfortable. And in Valorant, if you can make another team feel uncomfortable, that's where you want to be. When they're on their back foot, they don't know where you're coming from, what you're playing, and who and where is people are going to execute where people are going to execute where and when. That's when you would just own another team. And when you can just pick the Frenzy, the Odin, the Ares like Sinatra does, and just throws curveballs at the other team while running, playing back, it's chaos for the other team. And that's why Sentinels for me is the number 1 team in NA right now. I'm not saying they're the undisputed team. NA, I think NA from 1 to 10, as we talked about on my power ranking show of CMO on Monday, I think there is a lot of upset potential between even the top 10 and top 15, where I think Sentinels could lose. They lost to T1 Academy in a tournament not too long ago at the Pulse Invitational. T1's Academy team, which is very good and on the rise. So I think right now Sentinels have that curveball, but I do think NA is so jumbly right now that anyone can beat anyone on any given day.
With that said, as we transition to the PAX Invitational, to the point about your power ranking show, which is on every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I believe Emily will be Monday's guest, breaking down all things after the mandatory cup. So definitely tune in.
Europe.
Let's go. So that's every Monday. Definitely tune in. You get fresh power rankings. It's going to be Europe power rankings this Monday. The one thing I will say about Sentinels win, and we can give 1 point each on the PAX Invitational here. The one thing I will say about the Sentinels win this past weekend is I think we're slowly but surely reaching the point where one tournament win is no longer going to be the basis for the power getting number 1 in the power rankings. So we're getting enough body of work where we're starting to shake that down. But if there was one tournament where you could make a blueprint to earn that number 1 spot if you weren't in it already, Sentinels did it by not only defeating the number 1 team, but basically beating all the teams they needed to beat or the teams that beat the teams to get there. So that's why Sentinels, to me, was the firm number 1, and I agreed with both of you and Simo, Tyler, that they did they followed that blueprint to a T, doing exactly what they needed to do to be considered number 1 as we stand today. So that's I thought that there was a really good tournament for them, and also a good tournament for viewership. They peaked at 75 to 80,000.
Yeah, above 80,000. They did great numbers, and I've said this for a few weeks now. Where you look at the Twitch growth, it's organic. It keeps growing. It's averaging around 75,000 to 80,000 a day with just streams. The esports scene still growing. If you go on YouTube, which I think is actually a sneaky way to see how big the game is growing, if you look up highlights for the tournaments, they're all over 100K, which is more than most other esports, including League of Legends and CSGO to an extent. where I think there's a large audience that wants to watch Valorant esports. It's just them finding the tournament, knowing when the tournament is, because when, we're having all these invitationals from PAX and FaZe and T1 who are not, traditional tournament organizers, it's difficult for fans to really find where those tournaments are. Where I'm sure even people in chat who are watching the show don't know exactly when every tournament is or where they can go on Twitch to find it. So hopefully, as this continues to grow and more people start seeing Valorant esports and finding these matches out, the numbers will continue to grow from 80K, hopefully to 100K, maybe for the FaZe Invitational. If, FaZe and 100 Thieves and all those teams do well, who have big name players on them, I'm very optimistic about the growth of the game in North America and other regions like Japan, Western Europe is doing really well, Oceania. Some regions like Korea aren't on the greatest of terms currently. Maybe they can be. I know the first Ignition Series event for Korea is coming in August, so maybe if that can boost up the numbers in Korea. But I think right now, Riot and Valorant's in a good place esports-wise. But for me, my main storyline coming out of PAX Arena Invitational is TSM. The Louis Vuitton team, the Gucci, the double operators, Wardell playing with that aggressive, peaking style with his and they were playing disrespectful at times in the tournament. I want to shout out again to a friend and great content creator in the Valorant space currently, Sideshow, famous for his commentary on Overwatch League. He's kind of stepped up as being one of the first real analytical minds in Valorant. He had a video come out today where talking about how disrespectful TSM played with the operator in the PAX Arena Invitational Tournament. And I cannot agree more, where they were playing so aggressive, not using their flashes, not using any sort of utility to peek or play around things, where it was very much where Wardell would just peek and take the 1v1 and try to be better at his reaction time. And during the first tournament, the T1X Nursery Gamers, that worked. He was on fire. Drone was getting those first bloods inconsistently when paired with Hayes Cutler with his Phoenix, and everything was rolling. This tournament, those peaks, those aggressive plays, those overconfident plays weren't working as well. They got lucky to survive Envy, where both of those matches went down to the wire. And then when Sentinels had a game plan to keep their economy down from the get-go, won all 4 pistol rounds against TSM, never let Wardell feel comfortable playing that aggressive style, throwing so many bodies at them, pushing them out of sights, taking sights, and making the operator, when TSM could even buy the operator, feel very worthless when we're taking a site. So TSM, for me, I'm excited to see how they game plan and grow from this, because I know a lot of people are kind of just looking down on TSM. Why were they ranked number 1? Overrated. Wardell can only play the off. And I do agree that Wardell needs to show more play on the rifle, where we've seen Tens play every single gun in the game. You have Sinatra playing 12 different guns. He's playing the Frenzy, the Odin, the Ares, everything. And Wardell, when he was on the rifle, when they didn't have the money to buy the operator, he looked human. He looked like a player that he looked like someone. He didn't look like Wardell. He didn't look like the person that was the MVP of the Nursery Gamers Showdown. So for me, I want to see TSM, who I think are a very talented team. I don't care what Jacob says about Hayes and Cutler. I still think those 2 players are good. Especially Cutler. Don't look down at Cutler.
Jacob while he's
Clutchler will rise again, Jacob. Clutchler will rise again. So I still have hope in TSM, but I do want to see them come out with some more different game plans. I don't want to see them be so reliant on the double op setup going into the next Ignition Series tournament.
So piggybacking on that, I'll go with mine next, which is actually really quick because you and Arda already touched upon it, and it's that I think what we're seeing now in North America, and again, we've talked about this before, but this tournament really proves it, is that we have a cluster of teams. They're all vying for the top position. So that was my main takeaway, is that where TSM was I think pretty heavily favored going into this tournament, the teams that we were talking about already, as the tournament was going on the show last week, is we were Homeless is looking surprisingly good. Immortals are looking great in their group. Sentinels are looking great in their group. And T1 is looking great in their group. And, T1 and Immortals both lost in the quarterfinals. You have this really great, strong cluster of teams with a lot of talent at the top of North America. And I hope they continue to push each other to get some more interesting looks and compositions. And I think Sentinels really started the ball rolling with that this week, where previously I've always been really high on what European teams have done, like Fabricant, for example, and the Sageless comps when they lost their main operator. And that's like how it evolved, right? Where they were like, well, why don't we just not play Sage? And it was great, right? Like I've always seen Europe, especially recently, as like the more innovative of the two like kind of major regions that have cropped up in Valorant. But this past week, I saw more creativity from NA teams, which was really nice to see. I hope they continue to push each other because we do have this cluster of teams at the top. And that was my main takeaway.
The creativity continued in the very last map of the game on Split, where TenZ chose Viper as his agent.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were confused by that. I do want to, I had a chance to watch both TenZ and Sinatra's streams immediately after that match. They both went live on Twitch, and they both had things to say about it. So TenZ basically said that Sinatra is probably the hardest player to play against in Valorant. And he said he plays Phoenix very aggressively. We were caught off guard by his aggressive push with Phoenix in particular. And by the way, Sinatra's played 36% of his professional games on Phoenix and has a 240 average combat score. To that, he said, we had to make a change. We had to try something different to try to catch them off guard, to counteract them catching us off guard with their aggressive play. So they were hoping that Viper would be able to slow it down, particular with the Viper's pit and the ult, etc. So that was the main reasoning behind using Viper. Sinatra had a funnier line when asked about it. He said, "We knew they were going to do something stupid on Split, a random change, and they probably hoped it worked."
Yeah.
So
kind of same. And I think theory crafting, right? Like, it works, right? Where you have a very aggressive team. Their centerpiece player, Sinatra, is the most aggressive player probably in Valorant, along with TenZ. And the idea was to slow him down. Let's play on Split, where Vipers, walls, and orbs, and contraptions can slow him down. Hopefully, it didn't work out. And I think the main reason is that TenZ is that MVP player. If LeBron James is, trying to get his team involved and just not shooting the ball, and he's, just passing up, easy layups, the team's probably not going to do that well. And I felt the same with TenZ, where C9 needs that aggressive playmaking TenZ, that guy who can pull a round from out of nowhere, from out of a hat. That's why he's a magician, is because he can just take rounds from nowhere. And when you're on Viper, you're playing a much more controlled, slower style. And when the C9 needed that, jump start, when they lose, when they, TenZ gets traded out because he's playing something that's a bit more slow and more controlled, it doesn't work. And there was no secondary player on the team that could step up into that entry, that main ace role with Viper, with TenZ on Viper. So I like the theory crafting in sense it works, but I can also see Sinatra laughing it off. It's like, oh, you're taking your best player off an aggressive agent and making it easier for us to roll you. Great, thank you for
thank you very much.
Your W. I'm sure when they saw that they were laughing, because it's like, you would much rather play TenZ on Viper than TenZ on Jett. Because TenZ on Jett or even Raze, that's mayhem, that's chaos. That is 100 miles per hour running at you with mechanics of a god. Where with Viper, it's like, oh, there's a poison orb. Oh, there's a wall. Ooh, the cello. It's like, almost kill them. Like, I think in theory it was good, but I also can agree that in practice and actual execution, C9 needs TenZ to be that fire starter, and he wasn't there on Viper. So, good try.
So Viper, TenZ has an average combat score of 274.3, a 1.3 KD, so still pretty good. But on Jett, where he is an absolute artist and every map is his canvas, 305 average combat score and 1.47 KD. So we have something very fun planned for you at the end of the show. Before we get there, though, let's give some quick thoughts on the Mandatory Cup, which is Europe's next big tournament happening this weekend, and then also the FaZe tournament that's happening in a week from now. We won't spend too much time on that because we'll talk about that on next week's show. By the way, we're live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Emily, the Mandatory Cup, we got 128 European teams, 15,000 euro cash prize, and we have a lot of teams that you would expect from Europe to be in this, but also some weird like Party Parrots disbanded. They're in the tournament. Fish 123 is in the tournament. We haven't heard the Team Liquid announcement yet.
Yeah.
So a couple of eyebrow raising teams here, but when you look at the tournament, what pops out for you?
I mean, this is kind of a last, like, hurrah. We talked about this off camera, but, like, this is kind of a last hurrah for Party Parrots and Fabricant based on what they themselves have said, which is because they didn't get picked up. They'll be disbanding in the near future. These are two teams that I've absolutely loved watching in Europe. Obviously, I've talked about Fabricant several times when talking about Sageless compositions. Last week, we talked a lot about Party Parrots because they were the major, announcement that they were disbanding, and possibly the fact that it could also be because of CIS visa issues. We don't know that for a fact, but that could be one of the reasons why. I mean, I think like Xiao specifically from Party Parrots is insane. I hope someone picks him up. I really love the Fabricant team too. So it's going to be like weirdly bittersweet if they both do carry through with, not staying together after this, which kind of it kind of stinks. And then you have teams like Need More DM, Bonk, Big, that I'm looking forward to seeing how they perform in this tournament as well. And then, some other names that people are all familiar with, like NIP, Noel Pinky, who made a name for themselves last time. Europe is really, there's G2 at the top, and then it's pretty open. So we'll see if anyone this week can really challenge G2.
And Tyler, the team that you want in every EU tournament for the rest of time, Prodigy, is also here.
Hey, man, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's 30 teams in this tournament. That's fine. As a talent agency, it's fine for them. They've done a great job. Jerome's has done an amazing job. When there's so many teams, I'm sure Prodigy is better than at least half of these teams in this competition.
Sure.
So I have no mind for it. For me, this tournament feels a bit awkward. It's like the middle school of tournaments where, like, you have grade school, which is important, high school is important, college is important, middle school is that kind of that awkward age where everyone goes through puberty, that no one knows really what they're doing. They're kind of just getting ready for high school. No one really cares about the grades. That's kind of what this tournament is, where you have teams on the horizon. We're still waiting for the team liquid announcement of Fish 123. I can say that some of those top players from these, Fabricant and Party Parrot teams have already been signed or in the process of signing. That a new team, a new super team, so to speak, could be on the menu, which is one of the reasons why these two great amateur teams have to split up, because their top players got, sought after and picked up. So this feels like a very weird tournament where some of the top teams in the tournament are, disbanding after this event. So it's a very weird, awkward time where everyone's going through puberty. G2 still is is quite puggy. They're very they're so free flowing, and they're not been punched in the mouth yet. Kind of like TSM, where TSM was able to play double operator, play that Gucci lifestyle, and just play overly aggressive with the operator because no one stopped them during the first tournament. Where I see very similar to G2, where they can play however they want until someone punches them in the mouth. So far, they're perfect. Artist can sit up there with his 10-on-10 finalist record. Every time he makes a final, he wins. Every term he makes, he wins. So until they're punched in the mouth and they are forced to play differently and kind of reassess what they're doing, they can play this free-flowing, fun style that they're kind of having right now in Europe. So this is a weird tournament. I would say look out for Need More DM. I really like the Hungarian guys over there. I know they've been grinding hard. They're staying up till 4 a.m. in the morning qualifying for these tournaments. And it's another thing about Europe where these amateur teams like Need More DM, a star from CS, Bonk, these teams have to qualify for a lot of these tournaments where they're staying up and playing 12 games a day, and they're playing best of ones until 4 a.m. in the morning. So Europe right now is in a really weird, awkward position where I think NA, it's not based on skill. I think skill, we can still debate that till, the first international tournament actually happens, hopefully sooner rather than later. But right now, Europe's in an awkward place where there's a few pro teams, a new super team possibly on the horizon, a lot of these top amateur teams disbanding after this tournament. So I think for me, my big thing is if Fish 123 can improve from their placement at the We Play Invitational, I want to see if they have a more consistent operator play, or if they even need that operator play. And I want to see someone actually challenge G2, where G2 will lose a map, but they haven't lost a series yet. I want someone to punch them in the mouth and see how they respond from that. Because we saw that in NA with T1 and TSM both being knocked down at the PAX Invitational. Let's see the G2 get pushed for once. And I'm looking at Need More DM. I'm looking at Fish123. I'm looking at Big. I'm looking at Nip. Come on, punch them in the mouth. I want to see them have to face against adversity for once. Because I love watching G2. I think they're hilarious. I love their free-flowing blitzkrieg run and gun style. But I want to see them get pushed for once. And until someone can actually take a series off them, they can troll as much as they like and have as much fun as they like. Because they are the kings of Europe right now. And unlike NA, there's a number one, and then there's the rest. And where in NA, it's a big gump of like just a big lump of teams. Where in Europe, no one's knocked out G2 yet until someone can finally take Arius, finalists, 10 out of 10 record out of the way. They're going to keep, being number one, and there's no one really to challenge them. Maybe that super team, maybe they Zaipan, Shao, if those two guys can get together, maybe something can happen. But for right now, G2 is the clear favorite for me coming to the Mandatory Cup, and I would predict them to win. I
have some super serious reporting that I'll get to in just a second here. Extremely serious, like super capital J journalism here. I will say this to your point about knocking G2 or punching them in the face. As Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Yep. So let's see what happens there. I do like some of the names here, like Need More DM, Looking for Org, like blatant. Take a look at us names. They are very clear in their intent for orgs to look at them and to sign them. I like that. I like the direction. I like the no-nonsense names. We need more DMs from orgs. Looking for orgs. This is why we're here. I like it. So on Looking for Org, the team of Turks, there is a Turkish player named Toronto. That caught my eye. Simo's eye as well. We're both Canadian from the same province. We wondered, why would there be a player from Turkey named Toronto? Is he from Toronto? Does he live in Turkey now? So I did some digging, and I got in touch with Toronto, and I asked him in Turkish. He only speaks Turkish. I said, hey, why is your name Toronto? And he said when he was a child, his dad would speak about Canada and how he enjoyed visiting there once upon a time when he went on vacation. And so it just became this dream of his to one day go to Toronto and visit Toronto. So that was the inspiration behind his username. He still hasn't been, he said, but he plans to go with him and his brother sometime. So now you know.
That's sweet. Good
now
story.
You know. When you see the yes, very heartwarming. So if you see that username, now you know. Let's get to this.
They're actually quite good team too. They're not just the meme, or they're actually quite good. Looking for Org. They're probably some of the best Turkish players. I know Pora and Turco, and some of those guys played on the Prodigy team that made top 3 at the first Vitality European Open tournament. So good players on the team. I actually could see those guys making a deep run. And if any, I'm sure Turkey has a pretty big esports following, especially in League of Legends with Riot. So one good tournament, you could see some of those, Turkish organizations maybe pick those guys up. So could be a good weekend for those guys.
So we'll save the FaZe tournament conversation for next week, because that's really when we'll hear more teams announced and maybe some FaZe Clan team announcements. Infamous, I know you're in the chat. Maybe you can speed things up so we can talk about it by the time next week's show is on. But shout out to Infamous, he's a great guy. So let's get to the last part of the show. We're going to have a little bit of fun here. What we're going to do is this will be one of the last shows that we do before the new agent is announced. So
released,
pardon me. Let's look at the agents that currently exist, and let's do a 100% correct, definitive. You can print this on your fridge. You take this as gospel. This is the only tier list you will ever need. Let's rank every agent in the game. And everybody in chat is going to agree 100%. There will be no debates. We will get this done in 3 minutes. Are we ready?
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Wait, first. This is from competitive, right? We're talking competitive pro play. What are the best for pro play? We're not just saying for pubs. You have to make a distinction.
We're not including people like us. All
right, so pro play. Well, for pro play.
If this was us, Brimstone would have his own tier above S. God tier Brimstone, because that's all I play. But yes, this is for competitive play only.
All right.
Okay.
All right, let's start.
Well, let's start with Brimstone. Where does Brimstone land?
My first thought, I'd say he's a strong A. I think he's A. I think S for me, S is like essential. Needs to be played on almost every single map. There's almost no composition or map that character doesn't fit on. I think Brimstone is still a backbone character for a lot of teams. I know Omen has kind of usurped him in a sense with a lot of it when it comes to the King of Smokes, where Omen is seen as more of an aggressive, more playmaking smoker that can do more than just Brimstone hanging in the back as, that 40-year-old dad rooting on his team, throwing steam beacons down, trying to help him and throwing mollies. Much more passive play style. But I still think he's A. Maybe nearing B. I think maybe Killjoy coming into the scene. I know Simo talked about this on our show on Monday, where maybe Killjoy might bump down Brimstone's play time even more and competitive with some of her utility with a better molly, perhaps with the covert molly of her Nano Swarm. So I think for right now, I would at the end of Act 1, I think from all the games we've seen and all the tournaments we've had, I think he's an A. He's been a crucial part of many winning teams. I think he deserves his A spot from my point of view.
Do you think he's closer to S or B?
I think he's way closer to B. I think
closer
he's
to B now.
A minus B plus, because especially over in the We Play Invitational and now most recently at PAX Arena, we've seen Omen usurp him in a lot of situations, especially on, we've talked about how creative people are getting on Ascent because of that kind of wide open mid space. And Omen is absolutely perfect for that. We had already seen him more on Split, before Ascent was announced. We saw him a bit more in Split and Haven, because those are kind of larger maps. But Ascent, he has, for a lot of teams, just straight up replaced Brim. And I think when you're looking at whether you want to go double smokes or double sight, so double vision scouting, most people have opted for double vision, depending on whether they're running stageless comps. And I think that's why I would still put him A tier, but it's an A minus B plus because of how the meta evolved towards the end of this act.
I think he's A. I think he keeps his A rating because of his bind play. I know you love. Yeah. I mean, the most default play, even Arda, we know it. The quick execute of smokes on U-Haul, taking Lamp's control, being the stage wall up, the most easy,
basic 101 play on bind.
From silver to gold to pro play, that play works on almost every single level, and that's why I think I still have him an A, because he's still the one thing that Omi doesn't have that beats Brimstone is that you can do a quick execute with 3 smokes down instantly with Brimstone, and you attack a site, where Omen only has 2 smokes, and you have to go 1 and then 2. So for quick executes, especially on bind, Brimstone is, he was playing 86% of the time on bind during the PAX Arena Invitational. So I think he keeps that A rating. I do think Killjoy might bump him down to B, though. It's going to be very interesting to see how he survives in the Killjoy meta, unless he gets, a buff or a nerf. I don't think so. I think he's in a very good state. I don't think anyone's complaining about Brimstone.
I will say that he also is very useful on Ascent for the double smoke comp, right? For Omen and Brim.
If you're not going.
I feel like more.
Particularly for stageless comp.
I feel a few more teams are moving away from the double smoker on Ascent. We're seeing more variation, where that was really the first kind of theory crafting. It was double smokes on an operator, favorite map, do it. I think we're seeing a little bit more Omen play on Ascent over Brimstone if you don't want to have double smokers. But A tier, good job. Brimstone, you're pretty boring agent to play, but you've done it. You've done it. You've done it. A tier guy.
You watch out, or I'll open up the skies. Okay.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
I find Brim incredibly beautiful.
By the way,
killed me with his old.
By the way, the top 3 pros by average combat score with Brimstone: Superman on Homeless, 249. Marved on FaZe Clan is at 241, and Sabrosa TSM 236. Our next agent is, who do we have, Thomas, our esteemed producer? Who is our next agent? Omen is our next agent. Let's talk Omen.
Okay.
I am going A.
Significantly buffed from a month ago, for sure.
I think
he would not be A a month ago.
So he's an A, but you have to put him above Brimstone. So put him above Brimstone in the A rating for me personally. We can agree or disagree from this, but he really, as we talked about, he's usurped Brimstone as the king of smokes. He's so useful. You can play him defensively, you can play him offensively. When it comes from his playmaking potential, he is a agent where we're seeing so many variants from how you can play him. He's an all-around agent in my mind, where you have so many. In his flash is one of the best in the game. You can play it. He's an agent where Brimstone, you have to play him passively just because that's what kind of Brimstone is. He is that bootstrap commander that leads from the back. You're throwing the smokes down, those spin beacons. That's kind of his character and his kit. Where Omen, you can play much more aggressively. A lot of trickery, teleporting forward, backwards, the smokes, the flashes. His ult, which was buff, is a lot better now and can make him for either a great scouting tool or a great aggressive tool when it comes to planting. He's a mid to high A for me, above Brimstone.
I would say the criteria depends on whether you're looking at this entire first act as a whole, like what we've played thus far, or whether you're looking at it recently. For recently, I would agree with you and put him like just over Brim at like an A. If we're looking at the entirety of like from official launch, so like post beta to now, I'd have to put him at about the same as Brim. So like low A, high B, because he wasn't used nearly as much towards the beginning until they adjusted him again. And also until Ascent was introduced as a map, right? Because let's be real, like Ascent itself, like the introduction, and again, this is why maps over agents, guys. Ascent changed the way people looked at meta composition significantly, where like people would test stuff out of Ascent and then they'd be like, okay, maybe this is going to work on Split 2 because that's a really big map. Maybe it's going to work on Haven 2. And Omen has become the king of smokes on all three of those maps, in my opinion, especially towards the end of this first part of Valorant. So it depends. I'm gonna say it's going for like current meta right now, so I'd put him like at exactly the same. Yeah, exactly.
I still put him above Brim. For my vote, I'll put him above Brim. I'm
slightly above though. You're putting him in the same tier, so slightly above.
Let's chat decide. Let's chat decide. Is it above Brim or below Brim?
Well, no, slightly above though,
like
not
Omen
like
better because he's more interesting.
Yeah, I put him above Brim slightly.
Omen.
Right, that's what I mean. Slightly above because we're still putting him in the same tier. I think Omen's ult also can, in the right hands, can be among the most useful ults in the entire game.
Really, Brimstone's only real advantage is bind, where bind you have obviously the quick execution of smokes. Also, his ult is beautiful on bind, where you can have hookah and lamps, two of the most important places on the map, where your ult just can like
you clear them out very easily.
It clears it out very easily. So Omen above Brim for me.
So in terms of average combat score, Brax leads the way. No surprise there, 230 for him. Boo on Noel Panky is second, actually, 227, and Uzi on a team called Kudo is third with 218 on 210 rounds. Relics is fourth on Cloud9 with 215. All right, let's go to Breach. Breach has gotten significantly lower on this. If you were to ask us this even a couple months ago, his rating would be significantly higher than I think we're going to put him.
This is hard because now we're looking at NA versus EU.
Yeah, I was going to say like how.
So do you want to split it up? Do you want to do? Do you want to do? Emily, do you want to take the EU side?
No,
okay.
No. But I think like that's why like Breach doesn't drop super far for me. Like I'd put him at a B plus given how Europe uses him.
It was still a B though.
Yeah, I mean still a B because he's not like as widely spread across both regions as like an Omen or a Brim. So you can't necessarily say like, oh, he's you can't argue for him as A tier because he's not being played across like every single region. But I think Breach is still like really strong depending on how teams do want to play him. And we see most of the European teams favoring like where Phoenix is going to be another weird one to rank, by the way, because Europe doesn't really like Phoenix. But yeah, I would say B. I would still say B because of how much Europe prefers Breach.
Yeah, I think he's a B. I don't think he's C. I think he's still very useful. I know Morello from the development team said he's going to get buffs, but I don't think he needs buffs. I think he's still Besides Raze, I play Raze mainly as my signature agent, but I do play Breach as my side character when I don't want to when someone insta-lux Raze before me. So I think Breach is a good character. I think he's in a good place. I think because of the current meta, he just is kind of left out in the cold. I think it's less to do with Breach being weak and more so of just the current meta that he's kind of being left out in. I think we're seeing a lot more play of him in Europe. I think Shazam has done an amazing job of playing him in North America when he is played. I do like his play on Ascent and Split. I think those two maps are still very viable for him either in both regions. I have to go with B. I like mid, like right in the middle B. Like I think he is in a very precocious space where I do think there will be metas even in Europe where he will fall out. There's a possibility Killjoy comes in and just kind of rewrites the meta and he just falls out completely and no fault to his own. I think his kit is fine. But I think for right now, I would have him be. He's below Omen and Brimstone because he's not an essential part of most compositions, aside from a few teams where I do think like a Fish 123 of Scream on him and Shazam playing him in NA. He's a B for me.
So to your point, the top Breach agents, other than Shazam, who's second at 230 average combat score, it's littered with EU players.
Yep.
Scream on top with 259. So that's no surprise there. Who's our next agent, Thomas? Cypher. I think
easy.
we can agree on S tier. No need for a
Plus,
conversation. No need for a conversation. S tier, get in there.
Great.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's
is
go.
there even an argument?
No, we don't. We can spend 5 seconds on Cypher.
Yeah.
S tier, we all know this.
Yeah, just move.
Just
Keep moving.
drop it on the S. Drop it like it's hot. Let's go. S tier, there it is.
What is Cypher's best map? I mean, we can all agree he's S tier, but what do you think his best map is?
Cypher can hold on bind and split. Cypher can hold an entire site by himself on defense.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? B put the cam facing garage. You can see heaven and you can see garage that way. And then on bind, you can basically take care of B looking into hookah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that
I was gonna say,
camera is incredible.
I think it's bind because bind is such a comparatively like small map. It just feels smaller, and he can hold entire sites on his own.
I think it's Haven. For me personally, I just think it's Haven because it's actually
the C-Long?
No, I don't. I think it's that. It's less of it.
Too.
It's less of him controlling one map and just him breaking down flanks. Where I think Haven is the map where flanks are most key. Where there's so many ways you can flank on Haven. There's so many different avenues and paths you can go in. Where I don't want to count how many times I've had the perfect flank where it's a 1v2. They don't know where I am. I'm flanking from behind on Haven. I'm going through garage to C, and then it's that stupid freaking tripwires right there. And that tripwire. So I think it's Haven. I think he can stop so many flanks where it's the flankiest map on Haven just because of so many sites. But again, we can all agree he is essential on every single map. We will see if Killjoy can usurp him as similar to the Omen versus Brim conversation. I think people are just going
to use both of them together.
But they're weak on
possible at first, sure. At first.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like a double, like when people are first trying to figure it out, I think they're going to double it up. For sure.
Crashies is the best Cypher in North America, 227 average combat score. And then there are some European players, very impressive. Mikhail on Gen G as well is on the list. And so Meadow on Fabrican as well.
Meadow's great.
Our next agent is, let's go Jet.
Ooh. Jet,
I think, okay, in the right hands, it's S tier. I just want to say that. In the right hands, Jet is S tier.
Well,
I think people still don't, like, the problem with Jet, and we always knew it was going to be this way, right? Because, like, her kit by design is like this. If you are really good at Jet, she's going to be the best agent available. Because your entry is just going to be so good. Yeah. And something that I feel like people talked about her with initially, but don't touch upon anymore, that's super important towards economy, is that she basically is given a free econ round, more than a few, like, depending on how many rounds you're playing. If you're, like, stomping your opponents or getting stomped, obviously it might affect it. But, like, she basically gets a free econ round, pretty frequently with her knives. So if you have a really good Jet on your team, not only can you already just have a better economy than your opponents, but you have the best entry fragger in the game, in my opinion. But the problem is not everyone plays Jet that way. Even in competitive, honestly, like not everyone is a Jet player, right? I think the most reliable entry fragger is, in my opinion, Raze, across the board between both major regions. So it's hard. Like B seems like really low to me given the insane chat says B seems low to me given the insane amount of talent that plays her and her capability. I guess I'll go A because of the econ too. Like something no one talks about is econ.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Tyler.
I think she's A because I just think she's such a. If you look at every champion, big major Ignition Series champion, she's been at the center of it in some shape or form. Mixwell over in Europe, best Jet player. He plays her exclusively. Wardell plays her almost exclusively, along with Sova. Shazam, even though you see more as a breach player and more of a flexible player who can play a plethora of hero or agents, he started to play that Jet, especially to go along with the Phoenix of Sinatra, to even up the aggression of Sentinel's playstyle, where I think she's such a central ace cog, that kind of centerpiece of so many championship teams. And again, the free econ round where we've seen tens time and time again, we've talked about this in the clip of the week, where that was a round where C9 didn't have enough money to buy out with all rifles. He's on a sheriff. He doesn't buy because he has no money. He buys for his other teammates. He takes the ults. And even though they're down 5-3, he turns it all around with that one ult. So for me, percentage-wise, she's a B or a C even because of, the lack of teams feeling comfortable with her, but she's definitely an A because of how much the top teams can squeeze out of her. And I would put her below probably Brimstone and Omen. I think she's in
That's
A,
rough.
but I think she's below Brimstone and Omen.
I think she has to be.
Overall,
to Tyler's
sure.
point, to Tyler's point, all of the best teams in the world, I think, have a strong Jet player. But she is so finicky that you can't put her S. And she's not a super, when you're looking at composition construction, she's not necessary in the same way that Omen and
Brimstone are.
With that said, she in the right hands is by far the most dangerous agent in the game. In the right hands,
she's absolutely the most stunning entry fragger of any agent.
She is the most lethal agent in the game in the right hands. And you mentioned it already. The top three, Tens, Wardell, Mixwell, no surprise there. Yep. They use Jet like an artist on a canvas, as I mentioned. Phoenix.
I'm gutted.
Phoenix has to be B.
I'm
Joe
gutted.
Scova, you're dead.
I'm gutted at a B ranking.
You're terrible.
I'm gutted. That's my British accent. I'm gutted.
There can only be one Phoenix
here.
at B. Is it B? Is it B? Is B
the
Phoenix
British
B?
accents are terrible.
All right, so
I think Phoenix has to be B because Europe does not play Phoenix.
They should, because if Phoenix is the wave of the new future.
Is that a reason? Wait a minute. Is that a reason to give it?
NA. Well, this is the thing. How are we doing this? Because if we're doing it based on compositional pick, we said the same thing about Breach. Breach is super useful, but just because NA isn't playing him, we put him B. You have to say the same thing about Phoenix. I see your NA bias, guys. I'm the only person
he's higher than
Europe.
We can agree.
The only person who's pro Europe here.
Well, put him in B. Word. Well, I agree he's in B, but he's definitely above Breach because I think that a Phoenix in North America is more integral to their team success than a Breach in Europe. Where I think Sentinels without Phoenix don't win PAX Arena Invitational, especially if Sinatra, which I would say is the best Phoenix player right now, along with Drone and Gamon, and also Genji winning the Pulse Invitational off the back of Jet and Phoenix play with win on Jet and Gamon on Phoenix, where I think they are definitely that ace role a lot of times too, especially in the entry fragger where they're getting the first blood. I think Mr. Phoenix is in B, but he's not below Breach. We can agree on that, chat. He's above Breach. I will be very gutted.
Let's be honest.
I put him tied with Breach, honestly.
Let's be honest. You're saying that only because you like his voice lines.
Yeah.
No. Because if you take Phoenix away from Sinatra during the PAX Arena Invitational, they don't win that tournament. You take Phoenix away from Gamon during the Pulse Invitational, they don't win that tournament. You look over in Europe, G2 doesn't need to use Breach.
I will revisit this when we have the mandatory cup.
So we can say, confirmed, Phoenix is greater than Breach. Thank you very much. Home above Breach. He's in B, but he's above Breach.
Emily, 100% voice lines.
Yeah.
100% it's the voice lines.
There can only be one hero. There can only be one hero.
I don't know what you have against Joe Scova, but we still don't know who that is. All right, so Drone, Sinatra, Gamond, and Caboose on Team Envy are your top users of Phoenix and average combat score. Let's go Raze. How about Tyler's favorite agent?
Oh, I love her. My girl, my main. She has been with me from the first time I saw her.
Day one.
To day one. Day one girl right there. Killjoy, I'm looking at Killjoy, but, at the end of the day, I'm always going to come back to Raze. Her robot's better. She just spits out damage.
She's a thief. She's a thief.
There's no better feeling in the world than just chucking your grenade while the other team is planting and getting a double kill in a pistol round. There's nothing better than that when they have no armor and the grenade just kills them because they can't do anything about it. And for me, Raze is less used in North America, obviously, with the prevalence of Phoenix and Jet, compared to Europe, where Raze is much more prevalent. But I still think she's A. I think she's the best entry in the game, as I agree with Emily. She's a more safe entry than Phoenix, where Phoenix, a lot of times, you have to dash and play much more aggressive, where you can boombot in, you can grenade in, you can clear corners much easier on Raze without kind of committing yourself into a 1v1 duel. So for me, she's an A. It's not because I think we can all agree it's an A. We just have to agree. Does she go above Jet? Does she go above Omen? Does she go above Brimstone?
I think she goes above all of them because I think that this is like my weird Raze hot take, but I think you brought it up in your initial like assessment of her, is that you can play so many different styles with Raze as an entry fragger, right? Like you can play, like if you really want to, you can play more aggressively. If you really want to, you can play more passively. She's useful on every single map. I'm actually surprised that NA doesn't take as much stock in her like incredible flexibility as European teams do. But I really love Raze, and I think if you're evaluating it on like, again, like necessary in composition and someone who's gonna, like, regardless of who is on your team, is gonna put you in a position to succeed, I do think she's the best entry fragger.
Can I lament to you, Emily, for a second, if you don't mind? Tyler, please stay silent for this, just for a couple minutes here.
Sure.
So we're on. This has nothing to do with the tier list, by the way. We are on Bind. Okay.
Are you asking
Tyler,
me to evaluate your play?
I just want you to hear a story. I just want you to hear a story, Emily. Okay. Can you please hear this story? So, okay, let's talk about pathing. So we go A short. Wow. Tyler goes, all right, let's rush in. Okay, great. 3, 2, 1. We start walking through. Every single time, Tyler throws down a satchel without saying anything, jumps onto the box, and guess who's behind him every single time to take that damage?
It's only 20 damage. It's not that big of a deal. Not that big a deal.
Every time. Every time, Emily. Every single time.
It's more important. You got to take one for the team, Arda. Got to take one for the team sometimes.
Unbelievable.
I got an ace last night, and you were part of it because I satcheled you.
Yeah.
So I kill 5 of them, and I injured you.
Good Lord.
Can you call it out next time, please? Yeah. All right. So we're saying Raze is the best of the A tier right now.
I would. Let's go.
It's weird because the argument is that Brim and Omen are taking from each other, right?
That's they're stealing from each other. But I do think like those are the.
Chat still says S. I mean, that's totally fine because she dominated most of this entire thing.
Tyler, I like.
It's still really necessary, but I don't know. I do want to see more teams move away from Sageless comps because I think that kind of aggressive playstyle really appeals to me.
I liked your tweet. I liked your tweet, Tyler, during the PAX Invitational, and I think this is why Sick is so good on Sage as an agent. So you wrote, I'm going to read your tweet. At a time where people are asking if Sageless comps are the way to go, the top 2 teams at PAX Invitational exclusively played with Sage. Small brain equals using Sage as a walking ambulance.
Yep.
Big brain equals playing without Sage for more firepower. Galaxy Brain equals Battle Sage entry.
Yep. What's better way than entering with someone who would instantly heal yourself? Instant heal. Like, there's no quicker reaction time than entering a Sage, trading off, and healing yourself. And I think Sick and David P from G2 and Sentinels both are integral parts of the. I think that's why she is. I actually do agree, now that the two top teams right now in NA and Europe both play Battle Sage, play that aggressive duelist pistol round Sage, where Sick was second on his team in First Blood. Second. Well, he had 4 less First Bloods than Sinatra. Sinatra, who's the most aggressive player in the game, who, best player in the world, Shazam says, I think he's an amazing player, world class, especially on the Phoenix. And Sick has 4 less First Bloods on the Sage. Battle Sage is the way to go. I still think she's S, low S, but I would still have her in S.
Sick also has the most First Bloods on Sage of anyone, and Artist on Party Parrots, actually, soon to be disbanded, is second with 84. So those are 2 great. And David P is in that list as well.
Battle Sages, baby. Battle Sage, the future.
Okay, Reyna, D, why?
Wow.
Okay. Let's talk it out. The Hip plays her. Hip plays her a lot. Hip is pretty much the last bastion of the Reyna hope. We see Caboose play her time to time. I think she's situational. Maybe a C. We could talk a C or a D.
You could fudge like a C- out of her, but in terms of like necessity, the comps, I think she's really.
Yeah.
There are just so many better options than Reyna, regardless of like how you want to play her. Like if you're using her more for like vision, which I wouldn't, but like if you are, you have Sova Cypher combo, which is way better. Yeah. And then if you're using her as an entry, you have way better options in literally every other entry fragger probably. So
her flash is good. Her flash is really good.
And she's like really weirdly insular to herself that she doesn't fit in a lot of team compositions. And like to our point with Hip playing her, I feel like I don't want to say his team is winning in spite of him. Like they make it work, but I don't know. I don't like it a ton.
Well, in theory,
I don't think it makes her like super valuable. Like I think it, I think the way they're playing her is fine. I think it doesn't, I haven't seen her be super valuable in the way that others, I would like say like C-.
I think in theory, like if you play Reyna, you would expect her to be that hard carry, the ace, getting the 30 kills, plus 20 at least. We're on Ninja's Pajamas. Oftentimes, Hip plays the Reyna and is, third fragging on the team. He's third or second. He's not that like glass cannon you expect of Reyna, where if you play Reyna, her kid's around getting kills. You should be getting average on 20 plus kills. I think on using Blitz, the great app over there, created by the guys I believe at TSM. Like if you look at like the play rate and the win rate of agents by tier like gold, silver, iron. When you look at the average kills on Reyna, like Reyna is almost always the top of getting kills. Like if you're playing Reyna, especially to pro level, you need to get kills. So I just think teams are not gambling as much. I think teams could make Reyna work.
Why would you put your best player on Reyna?
There's no benefit.
She's not mobile enough. Like like in theory, could tens play Reyna? Definitely. Could tens put 40 kills on Reyna? Yeah.
Why would you put him on Reyna when you can put him on Jet?
Yeah, I think he puts up more big. He's more consistently going to put up big numbers on like a Sova or a Raze or a Jet over Reyna. Yeah. Put her in C, Arda. Put her in C, Thomas.
Okay. C-. I agree with Emily. C-. Barely in C. Scream has the highest ACS for Reyna in 253 rounds, by the way. Also on the list is Foe. Also, our investigative reporter Asuna is on the list at 221, and Hip is fourth at 209. Infamous in the chat said Caboose is the best Reyna player in NA, so take that for what it's worth as well. Yeah. Sova, where does the Hunter...
A.
Yeah, he's an A. That's an easy one. He's an A. Now it's just of where does he go.
Let's bring up the A tier because A tier's a traffic jam right now. Let's take a look.
Bottom up. Is Sova better than Jet? More integral than Jet? Yes. I would say yes.
I say yes.
Yes. Brim as well. I think more integral than Brim.
Yes.
I would say.
I would put him above the because I still see like Brim Omen as like this, like they're together, right? Like you can't separate them.
Yeah.
I would put him above the Brim Omen cluster, but below Raze.
It's versus Raze.
Yeah, who's still like in my opinion the most useful entry fragger across.
That's a hard one. I think Raze versus Sova is the tough one. I think that could go either way.
I think it depends on what you want to do composition.
I don't know, people.
I think
don't know.
Sova.
Sova's got the recon.
The weird thing with Sova is that he's not in competition with the other agent in his own category of vision because Cypher is like all the way up here, you know?
Yeah, but so I think he's definitely A. I just think I'm also thinking about his usage, like versatility. He can be a rifler. He's probably his second most played operator character beside, I think it's Sage, Jet, and Sova are the three main operator players for like the star ops of the team. We see, Sinatra play him, Wardell play him. I think so. I think I actually put Sova above Raze, and this is for me. I love Raze. She's my girl, but Sova, I think he's more well-rounded. I think he can be used with different guns. I think he can be an operator. I know some players like BZT, over if my boys need more DM and hungry play with the op on Raze, but I think overall I'd put Sova slightly above Raze, but that's me. That's me. Emily says Raze over Sova. Arda, what do you say?
That's a tough one. So chat is definitely
What's the chat say?
I will be the tiebreaker. I'm just saying Sova. Some people are saying S tier for Sova, but most people are saying A, and in fact they're saying bump Jet to B tier. So we'll do an adjudication after. We'll do a postmortem on this afterwards.
Jet
but
was like a B.
So here's the thing.
A minus.
Yeah, B plus A minus situation. That's what Jet will be, the last of the A tier. See, this is the thing. Sova, that intel is crucial. And also, if you look at the agents that use Sova in competitive, it's like an all-star team. You have Artist, you have Wardell, you have Venerated, you have Sinatra, you have Mame, you have Shao.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I think the fact that the best players in the world are using Sova to success, and we all know that Sova's kit is extremely powerful, even though Raze belongs in A tier. If you're asking me to tie break between those two, I would put Sova above Raze by a hair.
Yep.
By a hair.
Sova. Put Sova above Raze. Put her above my girl.
By a hair. Not by much, because I agree that Raze is extremely powerful in that entry frag position. But Sova for the intel and also for the experts that use, or the competitors that use him. All right, so finally, for the above S tier, God tier Viper, give us our reasons.
I'm gonna say,
is it D or F? Is kind of what we have to Viper has been. No, here's the thing though. Like, what is our criteria? Because now we're like all over the place, and A tier is a cluster because Viper has not been used successfly since like the end of beta, very beginning of competitive play. And it was only in Europe. We have not seen her have any success outside of that. I love Viper. I am an actual Viper player. I love playing her. She is not necessary to any competitive composition. So unfortunately, you cannot rate her highly whatsoever.
Can I just say that the highest number of rounds used for Viper is safe on Bonk, 172.
She has like a pick rate of like 1%, like 2% in competitive. Like you cannot bump her to C because of that. I'm sorry. There's no argument for it. I'm already.
Okay, Tyler has a counter here though. Tyler's a counter. Let's hear what Tyler has to say. Let's hear it.
Theory, I feel like Viper has more use than Reyna in a team composition. I think theory.
Who has played Viper and who?
Okay, wait. Hang on. Let's hear Tyler's counter here.
Yeah, my counter is very easy. The last major tournament we just had, the PAX Arena Invitational. Many people watched it. I feel like chat watched it. I watched it. We all watched it. Very good event. In the finals, which agents were playing the finals, Emily? Was Viper playing the finals? Yes, she was. Viper was playing the finals. Was they good in Viper game?
And people cited it as the reason why they lost.
I mean, in theory, Viper makes a lot of sense in some of these competitions. I agree. She's D. She's player in D. I can't play strawman at this. I can't play devil's.
So okay, here's the thing. No. For competitive, I'm siding with Emily on this one. Belongs in D because, first of all, we have nowhere near a good sample size for Viper being used in any sort of quality competition. Yeah. But also, I do think that if Viper is used more, we might notice that the kit is better suited than Reyna in the Reyna Viper conversation.
I totally think that's possible, honestly.
But the problem is,
Viper better than Reyna.
Yes, here's the thing. We are not doing this tier in theory. We're talking about as the agents are today. And so Viper cannot possibly be anywhere higher than any other agent.
Yeah. She's
okay. So let's take a look at the tier list as we have it right now. This is going to be our final opportunity to make any changes before it becomes bound forever.
We tweet it out. We're going to tweet it out and be official, Arda.
Well, hold on. If we're going to tweet it out, we got to put Faker in S tier.
Oh, yeah.
So that Twitter gets behind us.
Next match. Act 3. That's the new agent, Act 3.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so D tier Viper. I think we all agree that that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, high D. D plus. D plus. D plus.
D plus. D plus. Well, I mean, Twitter's not going to know D plus. Twitter's going to see Viper D, but yes, we're saying Viper D. Reyna C. Reyna C.
Bottom of her tier. I wish we could do like placeholders because like I still think she's like a C minus. I want more people to play Viper so we have more
C. Reyna C. She's easily C.
So we agree Viper D, Reyna C. Now let's go to B. Yeah. Okay, so B. We have Phoenix first, then Breach in the B tier.
Yes. Our boy Phoenix is above Breach.
I'm going to stand up for Europe here and say the Breach is still better, but I'm not going to feel strongly enough about it to argue.
Not a hill worth dying on.
Sinatra and Gammon just won 2 tournaments in an A based off their Phoenix play. So yes, Phoenix is above Breach.
Okay.
Go Phoenix.
I'm going to go A last because that is the congested tier. S tier, we have Cypher first, followed by Sage.
Yep. No disagreements.
I think that's fair. Okay. Now we dive into A. This is our last chance to make any changes whatsoever. This is the order right now. Number 1, Sova. Number 2, Raze. Number 3, Omen. 4, Brimstone. 5, Jet.
I don't disagree with that.
I think the only thing that would change is the only change that could possibly be made is Jet going down to top of B. That's the only change that could possibly happen.
You shouldn't, because if you're using the argument of winning with Jet, all of the top teams typically have an entry fragger that can play Jet insanely well because her, like, obviously if you don't know how to play her, like if you're me, she's like, F tier. But if you're actually good at the game and you have a Jet player on your team, she's like essential. And her economy is insane as well. So that's why I think she still belongs in A. And if we're using the same logic that you applied previously, she has to be an A actually.
Based off previous results. And also the clip of the week that you just showed was a perfect example.
I'm not trying to disagree. I would say she's A2. I know we have a little bit of debate here, a little bit of banter. I think she's A. I think I think it comes down to, is Phoenix an integral part of winning teams in an A? Yes. Is Breach integral parts of teams in Europe? Yes. Is Jet integral parts of winning teams in Europe and in A? Yes. Which is why I think that bumps her up to an A. I think if Breach sees a rise of play in an A, he goes to A tier and he comes in that soupy area. I also think that this is going to change dramatically of Killjoy. I think that we're going to see more. We're going to see more buffs to probably a few new agents. Maybe Reyna will get a buff. Maybe Breach will get the buff that Morello was talking about. Maybe some nerfs to me. I know Raze is going to get her satchel nerfed, I believe, from what Morello said.
Thank to make it goodness.
Less damage, Arda. Less damage. Now I'll only hit you 10 damage instead of 20, so it'll be good. But
can the nerf be that you actually call it out in gameplay?
No, never. Never.
Maybe that's a communication issue you should work.
But no, I think this is good. I think A is top heavy, but I think A is basically us saying like this is viable and winning compositions. And NA and Europe, these are both viable cog pieces. And then S tier is like have to pick. B is situational with Breach being Europe and NA being Phoenix, and then we have Viper and Reyna fighting at the bottom.
Lucky tier, yeah.
Unlucky
So we have a couple minutes left in the show. And by the way, chat, thanks for agreeing with every single agent tier that we put forth here. We will put this to Twitter, and we can't wait for the positive response from everyone on Twitter. It's going to be marvelous. It really is. So couple notes for you. Thank you for joining us. This is our longest ESPN Esports Valorant show we've ever done, but it's been a ton of fun. I'm really glad that we got to dive in on the tier list. Don't forget that Tyler has a power rankings show every Monday. Emily's going to be the guest this week. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 Pacific. They're going to dive into the European rankings. Do you envision early thoughts here? Does G2 fall from the first spot at all? Like, what is it going to take for G2 to not be number one, in your opinion?
It's going to take them, like, getting eliminated really
Yeah, really early. They have to lose, like, early on.
Even if they make, like, semifinals or finals, I still think G2. Because, like, Europe is in such a weird spot right now with, as we talked about with Fabricant and Party Parrots, that it's just, you know, there's, like, a ton of talent there, but making them into teams and knowing that we have, like, set teams is the issue.
There's definitely a possibility that like 2 of the top 5 teams are going to be like dead.
Yeah.
So
it'll
be fun though.
Final thoughts here, whether you want to talk about Mandatory Cup, what's coming up with FaZe. For me, my final thought is I can't wait to get more information on the FaZe Clan team. Who is the full roster? We have heard Zachary and Marv sign. Who is coming up next? We still have a full roster to find out. There's a tournament coming up, so I assume that FaZe will be in that tournament that they are hosting with a full team. So we're going to get information soon. I'm glad it's happening sooner than later. Final thoughts from you, Tyler?
My final thoughts is I'm just excited for Killjoy. I'm excited for Act 2. Obviously, I wish you were getting a new map. We're not getting a new map. Probably not until December. Sorry to be Grinch, everyone. No Christmas in July. But I'm excited to see Killjoy, and I'm very excited to see the drama that will unfold. What will happen if FaZe does not ban her from the tournament? Because we're going to see a lot of teams being like, "Well, we're gonna have 5 days to prep for this new character, this Turk character," which is always annoying. But be banned or not, if she's not banned, it's going to be really fun to see how Team She's with her in FaZe and just how she does the impact of that character in the new meta. And I'm just really excited for the FaZe Invitational, especially if FaZe, what's the run going to be. And Mandatory Cups will also be fun this week. There's so much action in Valorant. Every week there's a tournament. Every week there's the 30 bomb tournament coming up. We have FaZe. We have Mandatory Cup. Rage. We didn't even talk about the Rage Invitational. I think this is the biggest, maybe Japanese esports prize money of all time. Wow. $50,000 this weekend in Japan. And it's all best of ones until the finals. So it's going to be madness that it's a best of one until the grand finals of a $50,000 tournament. So much action this weekend, so much action next weekend. I'm just so excited to cover Valorant. There's so much stuff to watch.
Esports players love best of ones.
Oh, yeah.
Emily, your final thought.
I don't love best ones. Maps are greater than agents. If Killjoy is allowed and players don't want to play her, they could always enter a good old-fashioned gentleman's agreement. Just throwing that out there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It will never happen, but I'm just saying you can take power into your hands. I'm just saying. No, I'm actually, as people already know, I've been kind of the proponent of the European Valorant scene on the show. So I'm really looking forward to the Mandatory Cup this weekend because I really love what a lot of European teams do with variety and play styles and agent pick rates compared to NA. And I feel like we sometimes over-focus on NA because of the amount of larger orgs. So watch this weekend because Europe is still very exciting even if G2 wins.
So that'll wrap things up for us here on the ESPN Esports Valorant Show. Thank you very much for joining us. Feel free to interact on Twitter with the 100% correct tier list that we just created. We're here every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern with the program. Don't forget, Monday, Power Ranking Show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Emily and Tyler will be there with you, breaking down their EU rankings. But that's it. That's all for us right here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.